You need to be more creative than that.
Ascension perks in Stellaris give your Empire access to special abilities and powers that will change the way you play. By completing a tradition tree or the Ascension Theory technology, you'll get access to one of your 8 Ascension perk slots. But there are far more than just 8 Ascension perks to choose from. Let's look at all of the perks, explain what they do, and rank them into a tier list. Before we start though, I do need to say a massive thank you to Stardock for sponsoring this video. Sins of a Solar Empire 2 is releasing on Steam later this year. You can experience seamless real-time strategy where tactics and empire management are one. Command epic fleets, build vast empires, and play as one of 3 unique factions. With unparalleled depth and dynamic gameplay, every decision shapes your fate. There are no turns, no battle mode, just pure real-time strategy. Follow the link in the description to wishlist Sins of a Solar Empire 2 on Steam now and support this channel. The F tier is filled with Ascension perks that basically provide no real additional benefit to your empire. Sometimes they might be a slight bonus, or in a certain situation they could be great. I will cover that when it comes up, but generally, if you take one of these Ascension perks, you probably won't even notice. Archaeo Engineers is all about improving your Archaeo weapons and your Archaeo buildings. You'll get a very minor cost reduction to your minor artifact ship cost of 10%. You'll also get 33% additional Archaeotech weapon damage, and your Faculty of Archaeo Studies will improve a little bit. You'll also get to store a few more minor artifacts, and some of these star-based modules you get from minor artifact technologies, Archaeo Engineering technologies, will be improved. Why is this down in the F tier? The things I've said sound pretty good so far, don't they? Well, the minor artifact cost of Archaeo weapons is just completely out of whack. Even with a 10% decrease in minor artifact ship costs, you're still looking at somewhere in the region of 25 to 30 minor artifacts just to equip one Corvette with Archaeo weapons. If you want to go full hog and go for Archaeo weapons and Archaeo defenses, on a cruiser you're looking at literally hundreds of minor artifacts, which is entirely not sustainable. Due to that cost, you really can't equip many of your ships with minor artifacts, and if they're destroyed, it is a massive hit. You will not be able to replace them because generating minor artifacts takes a long time. You either have to go very wide and find lots and lots of archaeological dig sites, or mess around with some leaders just to be getting somewhere in the region of 10 to 20 per month, which is basically one new cruiser every year or so. That really does suck. The one exception I should point out with Archaeo Engineers is that if you roll the Zroni Precursor, the upgrades it gives to the Zroni Stormcaster are simply amazing, and if you get that Precursor, Archaeo Engineers then becomes S tier simply for the improvements you get to the Zroni Stormcaster. You'll basically be able to make your systems nigh impregnable to enemy forces. Executive Vigor gives you 100 additional Edict Fund. That's kind of like plus 100 Unity, but you can only spend that Unity on edicts. Previously, this has been up in the A and S tiers in past iterations of the game. Now it's down here in the F tier. Why is that? Well, with the introduction of Galactic Paragons, we can get a massive amount of Edict Fund from our ruler, and also from certain leaders that have specific traits that boost our Edict Fund. This generally means we don't need Executive Vigor in order to run capacity subsidies and mining subsidies, the two most beneficial early game edicts that in the past we would have taken Executive Vigor in order to run. Now we can run them simply through our council, and that means Executive Vigor kind of sucks. As the game goes on as well, that 100 Edict Fund does not scale. Honestly, it's just a trash Ascension perk now. Detox can only be taken once you have the Climate Restoration technology. It allows you to terraform worlds with the Toxic Terraforming candidate. You can generally find, 5, 6, if you're really lucky and you're playing very wide, you might even find 7 or 8 worlds with a Toxic Terraforming candidate in your galaxy. Generally, it's probably just better to instead build habitats than waste an entire Ascension perk on Detox. I really don't know why you'd pretty much ever take Detox except for some role-playing, or maybe you've gone with Knights of the Toxic God Origin and you are using the Toxic Colossus to toxify worlds. You can then use Detox to detoxify them, but that's a lot of extra hoops to jump through, and that's kind of unnecessary when you could just use the Neutron Beam. Interstellar Dominion decreases your claim influence cost by 20% and your starbase influence cost by 20% as well. There are lots of other ways to reduce claim influence cost without using up an entire Ascension perk for just minus 20%. Unless you're playing on a huge galaxy with 100 stars, you're generally also not going to struggle with starbase influence cost here either. So neither of these bonuses are really very powerful or even very noticeable. Shared Destiny got hit pretty hard with the nerf stick. It now grants you 2 available envoys. So far, sounds the same, but actually that effect is very, very different. I'll get to that in a moment. And now instead of exempting all subjects from divided patronage, you get 1 extra subject exempt from divided patronage. Divided patronage basically increases your subject's disloyalty or gives you a -1 buff to loyalty per other subject you have after the first. So with Shared Destiny, you can have 2 subjects before you start getting the divided patronage effect instead of just 1 subject. However, that just reduces the loyalty debuff here by -1 for your subjects. It's really not very many. You kind of get to have 1 extra subject. On top of that, envoys are no longer useful to place in the Galactic Council for extra diplomatic weight. You can now just do improve relations, harm relations, or espionage with them. That kinda sucks. This used to basically be 20% diplomatic weight and an infinite number of subjects. Oh, how Shared Destiny has fallen. Transcendent Learning gives you +2 scientist capacity and plus 25% leader experience gain. The leader experience gain here is rather pleasant, however overall leader experience has been nerfed quite a bit unless you've got your leaders on the council and you're using statecraft and agendas to buff them through that. If you are doing that, this 25% additional bonus here really won't change much of anything. And because scientist or leader capacity is now a soft cap, +2 scientists is alright, but really not that necessary, at least not for an entire Ascension perk. Enigmatic Engineering is more of a gimmick than anything else. You'll get +2 cloaking strength, +2 encryption, and your destroyed ships will not leave debris, and enemy steal technology operations will always fail. Steal technology operations are barely ever done by the AI, and generally other players don't do them very much either. Often, getting your ships destroyed and leaving debris is the least of your worries if you're losing all of your ships. Cloaking is kind of okay. It can sometimes allow you to do some powerful moves, but mostly it is just a bit of a gimmick. The extra encryption is probably the best bonus here, but I wouldn't recommend taking an entire Ascension perk for +2 encryption. We're now up to the C tier. Ascension perks in this tier, as you'll come to see, are often good, but only in niche situations. Consecrated Worlds is basically a Unity rushing Ascension perk. You'll get the Consecrate World Decision that costs 500 Unity. You can use this on 3 different planets, but you can re-roll it a number of times if you want to by unconsecrating and reconsecrating worlds, paying that cost again and again. Each time you consecrate a world, you will get a buff to your monthly Unity, amenities, and governing ethics attraction. However, that can scale at the bottom at 2% per world, all the way up at the top to 8%. So you're probably going to get somewhere in the region of 8 to 16% extra Unity per month with this Ascension perk, though at the cost of quite a bit of additional Unity, especially if you are rolling it again and again and again. You also can't colonize any planets, if they are habitable planets, if you've consecrated them as a holy world. So this is probably best for Void Dweller or Shattered Ring builds if they're not using planets, and for everyone else it's kind of so-so. It is important for me to note here though that Unity rushing can be very, very powerful, especially with the Synthetic Age Ascension perk. There are better options available to you, which we'll look at a little bit higher up in the tier list, but once you've exhausted those options, if you are trying to Unity rush, Holy Worlds definitely fits into your build. And if you're enjoying this video, please consecrate that like button. Hydrocentric is basically the aquatic ascension perk. It's going to give you some buffs to the aquatic species trait, which is pretty much a buff to your worker resource output. You can also terraform worlds with the frozen terraforming candidate modifier, so it's kind of like detox in that way, but there are very few of these frozen world terraforming modifiers. You'll also get a minus 25% ocean terraforming cost, and you can construct ice mining station starbase buildings which allow you to increase the size of ocean worlds. You, on top of that, get access to the Deluge Machine Colossus weapon, allowing you to terraform worlds with a Colossus into ocean worlds and killing everything without the aquatic trait on that planet. Boosting aquatic is alright, however by the mid game, by the time you're rolling this, you probably want to get boosts to your specialist resource output rather than your worker resource output. So getting a buff to that worker resource output from this doesn't feel that great. The other bonuses here are alright, but overall it's just not that great. Mastery of Nature kind of sucks, unless you're playing tall, in which case it can be quite good. It gives you a minus 33% clear blocker cost, which can be pretty nice if you have the Shattered Ring origin, clearing all those blockers on your Shattered Ring segments. And you get the Mastery of Nature decision, which costs you a bunch of influence and a whole stack of energy credits, and allows you to increase the size of a planet and get a 50% boost to the available number of basic resource districts you can build. If you're playing tall, if you're trying to get very large planets, this is probably the top of B tier, the bottom of A tier. Otherwise, for everyone else, you could just build habitats or conquer new worlds rather than wasting lots of influence on 2 extra districts. Universal Transactions is only available to corporate empires. You'll get +1 official capacity, plus 20% commercial pact efficiency, minus 15% branch office cost, and your commercial pacts will be free. They also do not require an embassy. Those boosts to commercial pacts are nice, reducing your influence cost there is helpful, but it's not that amazing, honestly. The benefits here to commercial pact efficiency are also mediocre at best. You're going from 10% value of your trade, or the other person's trade I should say, up to 12%. That is minimal. We've spoken before about increasing leader capacity, and +1 official capacity sucks for the same reasons as +2 scientist capacity. Grasp the Void gives you +5 starbase capacity and a 50% boost to discovering FTL technologies. Getting 5 extra starbases means you can increase your naval capacity a fair amount, or you could get some additional starbases up for trade route protection if you're having issues with that. Overall though, there are lots of ways, like the Unyielding tradition or like technologies, that we can boost our starbase capacity without sinking an entire Ascension perk on this. We're now up to the B tier. Items in this tier aren't actually that much more powerful than the C tier, however they have more general applications, they aren't quite as niche. Eternal Vigilance is an absolutely essential Ascension perk if you want to turtle up and build massive fortresses to defend your space rather than building fleets. You'll get +1 commander capacity, which is kind of meh, plus 25% starbase hull points, plus 25% starbase damage, plus 25% defense platform damage, and +5 defense platform cap. This pairs very, very nicely with Unyielding, and if you're lucky enough to have the Zroni, you can actually build pretty impregnable fortresses. However, if you're not focusing on starbases as a defensive doctrine, it really won't be any use to you. Lord of War allows you to increase your mercenary enclave capacity by 1. For a lot of empires, this means you'll get your first mercenary enclave capacity slot. So if you have 50 naval capacity worth of fleet with an admiral, you can pay some energy credits and some alloys and turn them into a mercenary enclave. Mercenaries in some ways are fantastic. You will be able to build up a quite large fleet without having to spend lots and lots of alloys on that, and they won't cost alloys in upkeep, instead they'll cost a massive amount of energy credits. But the big downside with mercenary enclaves is you cannot design the ships yourself, and they could get locked in with some pretty god-awful weaponry. This perk also gives you 25% additional diplomatic weight from fleet power, which is very nice in the galactic community, and it also reduces the wait time for getting your Mercenary Enclave payout as a patron by 2.5 months. That means you'll get more frequent bonuses like a stack of energy credits, some research, or a small fleet absolutely for free from your Mercenary Enclave. Necromancy is only available to machine empires. You'll get 15% extra weapons damage for large, extra large, and titan slot weapons. Additionally, this is the only way that machine intelligence empires can resurrect organic leviathans as their own ships. That isn't all that's going on here. You also get a 33% chance to resurrect each purged pop as a cyborg zombie, which can be very, very helpful indeed if you're going on some sort of massive offensive and then purging lots of organics that are unfortunate enough to find themselves in your empire after your conquest. I think the main benefit here really though is that additional weapons damage to L, XL and T slots. That's quite a big boost to any artillery type ships. Voidborn gives you all the benefits of having the Void Dweller origin without taking the Void Dweller origin, except of course for the nice trait that Void Dwellers get. You'll get a 20% reduction to habitat build cost. Every non-urban habitat district will increase the number of building slots on your habitat by 0.25, and you'll get an additional 2 maximum districts on your habitat. Every district will also provide +1 jobs, and you can upgrade housing buildings on your habitat. On top of that, the next habitat technology will always be available in the engineering tree if you want to research it. That technology boosts your maximum number of habitat districts and increases habitability. Even if you don't push too hard into habitats and you've only got 5, 6, maybe 7 of them, this can represent a sizable buff to your economy, and it is a bit better than Mastery of Nature in that you don't have to pay anything once you take this perk to get all of the benefits on all of your habitats. Xenocompatibility has been the butt of many jokes for quite a long time. I want you to just open your mind for a minute to the possibility that it isn't hot garbage. It is in some ways the only ascension path available to you if you're going to roleplay as a xenophile and maybe an egalitarian that doesn't want to thrust an ascension path on your entire population. You must research the gene tailoring technology and be some degree of xenophile in ethics in order to take this. You'll get a 33% increase to immigration pull and plus 20% pop growth speed if your world has at least 2 different species. On top of that, you will unlock hybrid species. Hybrid species are straight up better than regular species. They get +1 trait point and +1 trait pick. Even if you do actually ascend and go with a genetic ascension to get the most optimized biological pops you ever can, going with xenocompatibility is a benefit there. Do be careful not to have too many different diverse species on your planets, however, as if you get too many hybrid species, opening up the species tab becomes an absolute nightmare from a computation point of view. If you have 300 or 400 different species, finding the species you want to edit or look at can be quite challenging. Set default rights becomes your friend when you have xenocompatibility. Well, you may not believe it, ladies and gentlemen, but this is where I'm going to have our secret call out today. If you've watched this video through and you've made it to this point, thank you very, very much for watching, and I would love to hear from you down in the comments below if you made it to this secret call out. Try and use the word compatibility, xenocompatibility, or compatible in your comment, just so I know you really made it here. World Shaper requires you to have already taken 1 other Ascension perk, that's what that little number 1 there on the icon means, and you have to research the climate restoration technology, so often this can come relatively late in the game. You'll get a 25% reduction to terraforming cost, and you'll get the option of terraforming every single planet in your empire into Gaia worlds. Gaia worlds are straight up better than normal worlds. Every single species has 100% habitability on a Gaia world, and they get bonuses to resource output and happiness. It's very nice, however, if you're going to take a perk to change your worlds, you probably want to take a perk that gives you even better worlds than a Gaia world. We'll look at what those are a little bit further along in this tier list. Galactic Contender grants plus 20% diplomatic weight and a 33% increase to your damage against Awakened Empires, Fallen Empires, and the Gate Builders. If you want to take out a Fallen Empire a little bit earlier, you should take Galactic Contender. It has a niche window where it allows you to take out a Fallen Empire and steal their technologies and very good worlds with great buildings earlier than you otherwise would be able to, allowing you to scale up just that little bit faster. Plus 20% diplomatic weight is also alright in the galactic community if you're trying to become Custodian or Emperor and need to squeeze out just a little bit more diplo weight. We're now up to the A tier. Perks in this tier may often be included in quite a few runs. They're not the best perks in slot, but they often have very, very good bonuses or powers that will allow you to unlock certain parts of the game you might not otherwise get access to, or just generally buff your empire. Galactic Wonders does not require you to have unlocked any other Ascension perks. However, you do have to complete the Mega Engineering Technology, which comes along quite late into the game, and you must have built or repaired a multi-stage megastructure. This perk will unlock the Ringworld, Dyson Sphere, and Matter Decompressor research options. Ringworlds are great, they take quite a long time to build and quite a long time to fill up with pops, so unless you can find a way of getting lots of pops on them, they're kind of mediocre at best. Dyson Spheres will grant you a lot of energy. When fully completed, you can get 4,000 energy from one of these bad boys. However, there are other ways of getting lots and lots of energy without needing a Dyson Sphere, especially if you are a Megacorp. Matter Decompressors are probably the only essential megastructure unlocked with Galactic Wonders. This will give you some free minerals when placed around a black hole. There are very few ways outside of having vassals or just getting lots and lots and lots of miners if you want to have quite a high mineral income. The main gateway to lots and lots of alloys in the late game is actually minerals, not anything else. So Matter Decompressors are very worthwhile if you're wanting to take on a large endgame crisis and need lots and lots of alloys. Imperial Prerogative has very simple effects. You'll get a minus 50% empire size from colonies and plus 2 official capacity. I don't really care about the official capacity, what I'm here for is that empire size reduction. If you take this as your first or second perk and you stick to just 3 planets, you can quite easily stay under 100 empire size for a good portion of the early game. That allows you to rush agendas at a minimal cost, because if you're below 100 empire size, agendas cost very little to complete early, and it means you won't get any of the empire size debuffs like increased technology or tradition cost. Not only that, but your edicts will be cheaper, so you'll be able to run more of them. As the game goes on, if you're playing a wide empire, getting a reduction to empire size is essential. Pairing this with other perks and bonuses can reduce your empire size from colonies to 0, meaning you can take as many planets as you want to. And that's honestly just awesome. Nihilistic Acquisition can only be taken if you are authoritarian, xenophobic, or a Gestalt consciousness. You'll get access to the Raiding Bombardment stance, allowing you to steal pops from other planets when you're at war. This means you can go out and conquer lots of additional population without having to do the messy part of actually conquering any planet. You won't have to spend influence, you'll simply need to pick a war goal like Humiliate and then just raid the planets for lots of pops while the AI does not surrender and steal all of their economy. If you take Cosmogenesis, this is also a great way of filling up the synaptic lathe. Technological Ascendancy is a very simple ascension perk. It requires nothing from you and gives you plus 10% research speed and a 50% boost to rare technology chance, meaning you are more likely to roll rare technologies. Now there may be other better picks as your first or second ascension perk, but if you are going for a tech rush, this is probably the ascension perk for you. Galactic Force Projection is probably better than ever before. You're going to get +1 commander capacity, which in the late game is quite useful as you'll often have more fleets than you actually have available commanders, and that means you have some fleets without commanders. If you want commanders on your fleets, that makes them much more powerful. +2 max influence from power projection is also quite helpful. It's going to let you build more habitats, build more gateways, build more hyper relays, all of the great late game things that need influence. It also grants plus 50 fleet command limit and plus 100 naval capacity. That fleet command limit allows you to have hyper-dense fleets with many ships, and thus you need fewer commanders to put a commander on every single fleet. The additional base plus 100 naval capacity also scales with any other modifiers to naval capacity, so this can be worth upwards of 2 or 250 extra nav cap in the mid to late game, which is basically an additional fleet full of battleships. That is absolutely awesome. Engineered evolution is required if you want to take the genetic ascension path. It will unlock the genetic tradition tree and a special agenda allowing you to get the technology you need to start that tradition tree. Ascension paths are wildly powerful, and you might be wondering, why is engineered evolution down here in the A tier and not higher up in the S tier? Well, genetic ascension is currently the weakest ascension path by far. I expect the custodian team to rebalance this at some point in the future and push it back up into the S tier along with the rest of the ascension paths, but at the moment it's just hot garbage when we compare it to any other ascension path. And because you can only take one ascension path, engineered evolution will lock you out of all of the other ascension paths, and thus kind of makes it a high opportunity cost. Welcome all the way to the top to the S tier. Thank you very much if you've stuck around with me and didn't just skip all the way to the end here and check out the entire tier list in one go. You're missing out the reasoning for why things go in certain places, which is, I think, quite important. Items up here in the S tier are generally an auto pick every single campaign you will run. You might choose not to take one of these powers because you simply don't want to be that powerful, but generally speaking, if you take every option available to you here, you're not going far wrong. First up, we have One Vision. This is just a better version of Consecrated Worlds. You'll get plus 10% monthly unity, a whopping plus 50% governing ethics attraction, which is awesome. That extra attraction boost will promote your factions, your ethics factions, that are the easiest for you to make happy, and thus give you big bonuses to unity output and happiness, which thus means stability, empire-wide. On top of that, we also get a minus 10% reduction to pop amenities usage. We can stack this with other bonuses and modifiers to vastly increase our pop efficiency, because if we don't need to produce as many amenities, we can shift those amenity producing pops into other useful roles like researchers or metallurgists. The reason this is slightly higher up than Tech Ascendancy is those two first bonuses were great, but also Unity rushing is now more powerful than ever. You need it in order to unlock your Ascension, and you also need it if you want to unlock things like the Crisis or just great Ascension perks and tradition paths. Technology is also much more expensive now, so you'll get more bang for your buck with increased Unity by 10% rather than just increased research speed. Of course, at the same level. Arcology Project requires you to take 2 other Ascension perks first, and also have the anti-gravity engineering technology. On top of that, you cannot be a Gestalt consciousness unless you are a rogue servitor. You also cannot take Agrarian Idol, but honestly, who takes that? So, what does this do? Well, it unlocks the Arcology Project decision, allowing you to convert your worlds into Ecumenopolis worlds. They are the best planet type in the game, and you can get Ecumenopolis worlds online so much faster than a ring world, which is honestly the only equivalent world type in the game. Ecumenopolis worlds are essential if you want to have a very high late game alloy production, because you can fit so many jobs onto a single planet and stack it with buffs and modifiers. On top of that, you've also got some fun other designations like an ecclesiastical Ecumenopolis world, allowing you to get thousands of Unity output from just a single planet, or you could also go for consumer goods or trade value. Lots of great things can be gained from Arcologies. Hive worlds are the hive mind version of an Ecumenopolis in some ways. They're not quite as good as an Ecumenopolis, but they are much better than a Gaia world for hive minds. They are great worlds that allow you to build any amount of basic resource districts. You're no longer capped by your planetary features, instead you're capped by the maximum number of districts the world has on offer. Machine worlds are again the same, but for machine intelligence empires. Machine worlds are pretty much equivalent to hive worlds, except you cannot get farming districts on them. You can get an unlimited number of generator or mining districts, well, only limited by the maximum district capacity of your planet. You also get double output from resource districts on machine worlds too, and machine worlds themselves come with additional bonuses to your resource output, and you get an additional replicator job, which means you'll get more pop assembly speed. Master Builders requires you to have 2 Ascension perks taken already, and you must have completed the Mega Engineering technology. This grants you a 50% megastructure build speed increase, so your megastructures will complete faster, and +1 megastructure build capacity, meaning you can begin building an additional megastructure, allowing you to run with only this Ascension perk 2 megastructure building projects in parallel. Other bonuses like the Ascension Edict can increase your megastructure build speed and megastructure build capacity yet further, but Master Builders is a great start. Taking this will probably mean you can complete all of the megastructures in the game in 30 to 40 years. It is honestly awesome.
Fear will keep the local systems in line. Fear of this battle station.
The Colossus project lets you research and then build Colossus weapons. This is basically the Death Star. You can use a Colossus to blow up planets, shield them in a perfect impenetrable force field for all of time, neutron sweep them to kill all biological life. Depending on your government type and your civics, you might also be able to assimilate entire worlds, and it basically means you can speed up the late game by cracking enemy planets, thus reducing the pops and economies of AI empires, which means the game will have fewer computations to run and will run slightly faster. On top of that, this is awesome for taking on the end game crisis. If you need to get rid of the Praetorian Scourge or kill off the contingency, a Colossus is very, very handy. That means you won't have to sit there for ages bombarding these planets in order to defeat the crisis. There's also one special bonus I haven't quite mentioned yet. That is the fact that when you unlock a Colossus and finally build it, you get access to a special war goal, which is a Total War goal. Total War goals do not require you to use influence in order to conquer your enemy. You simply declare war, and then as soon as you capture a starbase or planet, you own that starbase or planet. It is very, very powerful, but don't forget, a door opens both ways. Defender of the Galaxy can only be taken when you've already taken 3 Ascension perks. It grants you a massive 50% damage bonus to endgame crisis factions, which should include any empires that have already taken the Galactic Nemesis or Cosmogenesis crisis ascension paths. This is especially useful when playing against 25 times Crisis, or even 5 or 10 times Crisis. It gives you a massive damage modifier you wouldn't otherwise get. On top of that, you'll get plus 200 opinion from all regular empires, meaning becoming Galactic Custodian or Galactic Emperor is much, much easier because everybody will love you. Diplomacy in general becomes a doddle when you have Defender of the Galaxy. One important thing to note about this, there has been a change compared to previous patches. If you take Galactic Nemesis or Cosmogenesis, you are now barred from taking Defender of the Galaxy. So you cannot both defend the galaxy and try to blow it up, which is honestly kind of sad, but it does make sense from a balance perspective. Galactic Nemesis and Cosmogenesis both allow you to unlock one of the 2 crisis paths. This means your empire can become, in every sense of the word, an endgame crisis faction. You can't be a Xenophile pacifist or rogue servitor if you want to take Galactic Nemesis, and neither can be subjects Galactic Custodians or Galactic Emperors. You also can't take both of these crisis paths at the same time. That simply is not allowed. It is important to note though, Cosmogenesis can still become Galactic Custodian and Galactic Emperor after taking this perk. They simply cannot take it while they are Galactic Custodian or Galactic Emperor. These player crisis paths unlock a bunch of special powers and abilities. You will need to accumulate a special resource, Menace in the case of Galactic Nemesis, and Advanced Logic in the case of Cosmogenesis. Accumulating more of this resource and doing some special research projects will allow you to unlock higher levels in the player crisis path. With each level you get more bonuses and abilities, and you can do more crazy stuff. At the final level, you generally unlock some sort of power that lets you break or hurt the galaxy in exchange for winning the game. If it weren't for something we're going to look at a little bit later on, this would kind of be the triple S tier Ascension perk. However, there's honestly something that's just a bit more powerful and broken at the moment than Galactic Nemesis or Cosmogenesis. Next up we have Mind Over Matter, the Flesh is Weak or Organo-Machine Interfacing if you're a Gestalt Consciousness, and Synthetic Evolution. These are the other Ascension paths available to regular Bio-Empires, or in the case of Flesh is Weak, also available to Hive Mind Empires as well, and Driven Assimilators. Taking this allows you to take the corresponding Ascension tradition, which generally is going to give you a bunch of extra bonuses to your pops and your empire. Usually 20, 30, 40% additional resources from jobs, and extra bonuses to your leader, special traits, yada yada yada. It's all great stuff. But all of it pales in comparison to the final part of this tier list. Synthetic Age is the new Ascension perk you need to take if you want to ascend your machine species. It will unlock the Modularity, Nanotech, and Virtuality traditions, and Virtuality honestly is just so gosh darn broken. Modularity is basically a better version of Synthetic Ascension that is only available to machines, i.e. robots that have already kind of ascended. Modularity will allow you to get up to plus 100% resources from alloys and plus 100% research output from your researchers. That so far sounds amazing. That is a massive bonus for your pops. But that sucks when we compare it to Virtual. Virtual is currently granting us instant free pops that don't require any time to be built. We simply have to create new jobs and then poof, the pops inhabit those jobs immediately. Massive bonuses to resource output, and a special policy that is going to grant us plus 100% research output from jobs, meaning that through a policy all of our pops are better than Modularity Ascended robots, and that's before we look at the other bonuses to resource output that Virtual is giving us on top of that. It is the most broken and overpowered Ascension path in the game, and because Synthetic Age does not require you to research any technologies, only unlock 2 other Ascension perks, and then take this as your 3rd Ascension perk, it is the most powerful Ascension perk in Stellaris by a country mile. In order to take these Ascension perks, we of course first have to select our traditions. If you'd like to find out more about the traditions available to you in Stellaris and see them ranked in a tier list, you want to click the video on screen now.